Hey guys, today I'm on location in Tokyo, Japan, specifically the Akihabara neighborhood, and I'm here to try and answer a simple question. Is it still possible to find good deals on retro games and hardware, or has that ship sailed? Akihabara is known as a mecca for enthusiasts of all kinds. Whether you're into electronics, anime and manga, models and figurines, maid cafes, or retro computers and games, you'll find more of it concentrated here than anywhere else in the world. No surprise, as gaming culture has been huge in Japan since the earliest days of the medium, and today is stronger than ever. Heck, even the trains in Tokyo play this familiar Mario Kart jingle to announce their arrival. During the pandemic, Japan closed its borders, resulting in a huge drop in foreign visitors. Inventories piled up and retro prices bottomed out, making it a great time to score a deal, if you were here, that is. Since reopening, the country has gone hard on tourism. Some would say a little too hard. The first months of 2024 have surpassed all previous records for foreign visitors. After a decade of economic stagnation, the yen to dollar ratio currently sits at around 156 to 1, something not seen since the bubble economy of the 80s. That means that some foreign visitors have tremendous buying power advantage compared to the locals. Couple record high tourism with crazy exchange rates, and the supply-demand equation has gone completely out of whack. Some report that retro inventory has been wiped out as foreign buyers clear out entire shelves to resell back at home. How bad is the situation? Well, let's find out for ourselves. First up, a Surugaya specialty store. There are a bunch of these, and we'll visit some of the others later. Let's see what goodies await. This store has a ton of retro software, and every system from the Famicom to the PS4 is accounted for. Now, I'm not all that big into game collecting. I'm more interested in unique Japanese hardware I can't get at home. Things like the MSX, PC-98, and Commodore Max. Still, let's take a look at some of the prices for good measure. Of course, the desirable box titles are gonna be in the glass cases. This original Super Mario Bros. Cartridge is priced at 8,600 yen, but there are some titles that are even more. On the end caps, you'll find loose budget games. These are typically titles that aren't very desirable, hence the low price. I don't even know what a lot of these are without the help of Google Translate. Mario Tennis 64 here is only 700 yen, so just under $5. Now this is way more interesting to me, a shelf of computer software. And there's a good number of X68000 games to boot. I've already got this one, but the price is pretty reasonable at 4,200 yen. There are a lot of B titles, but I did spy Arkanoid here for 7,200 yen, a little steeper. I'm actually kind of shocked to see this much inventory, hopefully a sign of things to come. Space Harrier for 6,400 yen, not bad, especially with the exchange rate. They also have a decent selection of PC-98 and a few MSX titles as well. Very cool. Now on to the hardware. There are all kinds of loose consoles, most of them too modern for my taste. There are a few classics though. Let's see what we've got under this Sony Personal 3D Viewer. Okay, it's a Super Famicom for only 2,000 yen. No controllers, and it's quite yellow, but still, at that price. It should be tested and working, but you definitely want to translate the label just to make sure before you buy. Some machines are sold as junk, so be careful. Now this is an interesting color. I've never seen a PS2 in metallic purple before. I like it. I'm not in the market for one, but still a neat find. Down below is an MSX just hanging out in this bin. I've been looking for one, ideally an MSX2, but not at 24,000 yen. I'll keep looking, there are still plenty of places to check out. Loose Saturns for around 6,000 yen? Pass. My box machine was around that much on Yahoo in mint condition. I'd like to add a 3DO to my collection, but 22,000 yen is pretty far outside of impulse buy territory. Moving on. Practically next door to Surugaya is a place I've really been looking forward to. This is Beep. And if you don't know it's here, you're likely to miss out, as the shop is underground down this easy-to-miss stairway. I feel a small connection to this place, as they're the shop that refurbished and sold the X68000 Super that I bought at auction a few years back. It's one reason I'm excited to check them out in person, as they deal more in vintage computers than other retro gaming places. Heads up, Beep doesn't allow video recording in their store, so we'll have to take a look at their wares through a series of still images instead. I made a point to ask for permission to film at every other location, but this was the only shop with such a rule. Right off the bat, I spotted something interesting. The NEC PCFX wasn't something that I had on my shopping list, but it's definitely something I'd love to pick up. It is really bulky though, and I've just started my day. Not sure I want to lug this thing around, even if the price is right. The tag says it's been tested for power, but nothing else, so that's something to consider. Now, this is cool and unexpected, a Super Street Fighter II CPS2 board. They actually had a whole shelf of arcade boards for sale, but they were all wrapped and stacked, so it didn't make a good photo. Beep does have a limited selection of games for retro consoles, and the prices were quite reasonable. Again, undesirable titles were going for next to nothing, but the interesting stuff still carried a premium, even loose. They also had a shelf of boxed console games, which was fun to poke through, but what I was more interested in was their selection of computer software. There were a few X68000 titles, as well as PC 88, 98, and MSX. I bought this game for a little less on Yahoo, but after shipping, this might actually be a better deal. Definitely way better than eBay prices though. Remember the question I posed at the beginning? Let's take a look at some of the prices for a few pieces of retro hardware I don't own but would like to, starting with the Sega 32X. This isn't unreasonable for a boxed example, nor is the price of this Sega CD, Mega CD 2. This pretty much tells you what you need to know. How about this PC Engine Duo RX? Not the model I'm after anyway, regardless of the price. Finally, the mighty Neo Geo. It's fair to say I probably won't ever own one of these, and I'm okay with that. In terms of vintage computers, Beep has you covered. Most of what you see in the showroom appear to be display models. Their website does catalog what they've currently got for sale, and they also auction refurbished units on Yahoo, which is how I ended up with mine. Speaking of, they did have this nice XVI unit on display with a tag indicating it was a work in progress but would be available soon. They also have a variety of repair and refurb parts available, including new power supplies, cables, accessories, and the like. Finally, I thought this box of 8-inch floppies was a neat find, so here it is. What a cool place, but now it's time to move on. Here we are at Retro Game Camp, and just like the other places we've seen so far, it's kind of a hole in the wall. On the first floor it looks to be all software, but in the back I did notice this display of Famicom Disk System titles, something I haven't seen anywhere else so far. I had heard that the supply of Disk System games had been pretty much wiped out, but there are quite a few here, so maybe that rumor wasn't true. Either that or they've done a good job restocking. I'm going to have a rifle through and see what they've got. Once again, prices are going to vary based on desirability. On the low end, we've got stuff like winter games here. A little more will get you something like the Japanese Super Mario 2. On the high end, you've got the quintessential Disk System title Legend of Zelda here. Some good options, but I'd like to have seen the prices 4 years ago. Upstairs, we find the hardware section, including a whole stack of disk systems, many complete in box. Ouch though, make sure you check eBay first. There are also half a dozen loose Famicoms to go with, if you need the complete set. These appear to be AV modded, which explains the price. Want a Super Famicom? They've got like 24 here, with prices varying based on condition. I think these are about on par with eBay pricing though. I was hoping to find a nice Game Boy DMG, Color, or Advance on this trip, but have you seen the prices of these things lately? I had it in mind that I would try and find a nice PC Engine, complete with CD-ROM and interface, but I'm starting to rethink that plan now. The last stop, for now, is Super Potato. Best name by far. If you're into software collecting, you're going to be like a kid in a candy store. That's true of just about any of these places we've been to so far. There's just so much to look through and you're sure to find more than a few items of interest. One could easily spend hours at each location pouring through each shelf, but I've got a video to make. All the retro hardware is up on the second floor, so let's have a look at the good stuff. Look at all these Mega CDs. If I were to choose one, it'd have to be the first gen model, even despite its issues. Maybe in another life. Yeah, you know, suddenly the price of the Analog Pocket doesn't look so bad. Excuse me, little buddy, what have we got here? I didn't realize that the Vectrex was even sold in Japan. Apparently it was, under the Bandai brand. Neat! Remember that time I got an N64 complete inbox from Japan for 30 bucks? Yeah, that was only a few months ago. Ha! They must have had to deal with a bunch of buyers that didn't know these were RF only. Remember that time I got a Famicom complete in box from Japan for 30 bucks? Yep, that was only a few months ago. All hope is not lost. Here's a good deal for someone who's willing to put in a little work. More neat stuff here. I've actually never seen a real Lynx in person before. Funny it would be here in Japan. Huh. I had no idea that the Intellivision was also sold in Japan, but once again, here they are, and once again, they were distributed by Bandai. Okay, I realize I'm being more than a little cheeky at times. Some of you may be salivating at all the retro goodness on display here, and I will admit, it's an amazing experience to be able to visit all of these places. Keep on watching though, because I've got a plan to find better deals than can be had here in downtown Tokyo. So now it's time to move on to phase 2 of the plan, and in order to get properly psyched for that, just have a look at these Neo Geo games. Hey guys, today I'm in Osaka, and if I sound a little hoarse, you're gonna have to forgive me, because I was up late last night singing karaoke in a bar with a bunch of complete strangers I met at a food tour. Now, Osaka is not exactly off the beaten path. This is a major city in its own right, but it is a couple hours from Tokyo via the Shinkansen bullet train. Speaking of which, that's something I really wish my country had. I love the trains here in Japan, and I love riding on the bullet trains. They're just absolutely awesome. But I digress. The reason we're here today is to see if we can find any better deals in this city than we could in Tokyo. So, without further ado, let's get started. The area I'll be exploring today is known as Denden Town, basically the Akihabara of Osaka. It might not be as well known or as glitzy, but maybe we can find something interesting or score a better deal here than in Tokyo. Our first stop has a Surugaya right next to a Super Potato. Since the latter was our final stop in Tokyo, let's make it our first here in Osaka. This location definitely feels larger, albeit on a single floor. Just feast your eyes on all the retro goodies, hardware, games, and accessories galore. It's 95% console stuff, but the inventory looks solid. Reports of empty shelves may have been greatly exaggerated. Famicom games for as far as the eye can see. Again, prices vary based on desirability. As before, the best stuff is tucked away safely in the glass display case up front. This store has the largest selection of Game Boy titles that I've seen so far. It makes for a great looking display, but prices for these classic handhelds, both hardware and software, have seemingly outpaced that of the home consoles. If anyone knows why, be sure to leave a comment. Time to check out the hardware, and here we can start making some price comparisons. Like the Retro Game Camp in Tokyo, this Super Potato has a big stack of Super Famicoms. Huh, the price for the nicer unit is actually higher. They were only 9,800 in Tokyo, weird. AV modded systems? These are also more expensive, around 2,000 yen more than Tokyo. What's going on here? Well, at least this disc system is cheaper, and by a lot. It's 6,000 yen less here. Well, I guess it's too early to draw any conclusions. What else have we got? That is an impressive array of complete in-box Nintendo systems. Remember that time I got a... Yeah. I'd give the N64s a pass, but these GameCubes are pretty decent. They reached the bottom of the depreciation curve a few years back and are starting to climb, so if you want one, or one in each color, don't sleep on it. They've definitely got the best selection of DMGs and Game Boy Colors I've seen so far, but no. Only fair to give some airtime to Sega too. All the greats are well represented, along with some of these Sanyo 3DOs that I'd never seen before. I do appreciate how many boxed consoles they have in stock, and it's no secret that the Japanese generally take really good care of their equipment. These Saturns are slightly more than what we saw back in Tokyo. I don't have a baseline for Dreamcast, so I can't make a comparison. These Mega CDs, on the other hand, are just a hair cheaper than what we saw earlier, so once again, things are inconclusive. I'm surprised at how much loose Mega Drives are selling for these days. It was only a few years ago that I was buying them for $15. One of my favorite things about these stores is you never know what you'll find. For example, I had no idea the Saturn had a floppy drive. It offers 50 times the save space as the onboard memory, but was only supported by 24 titles. There's simply too much to show it all. Entire walls and bin upon bin of accessories. PC Engine multitap? Not till I find a bargain on the console itself, thanks. They also have a fantastic display of vintage handhelds from across the decades. Did you have any of these back in the day? Many of them I've never so much as heard of before, so it's neat to get a glimpse into some of the tech that we missed out on but was available for sale half a world away. Oh, and completely unrelated, here's another PCFX, but it's more than twice the price of the one we saw in Tokyo. It's missing parts too. My theory is crumbling before my very eyes. We've seen a lot of commodity hardware on this trip, so it's nice to see a few MSX machines here, along with a small selection of software. I had been hoping to see more Japanese market rarities, but it is what it is. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. Up here we have a handful of Sega SG-1000s, a Super Graphics, a stack of Nintendo Virtual Boys, another Lynx, tons of PC Engine variants, and what's this? A bona fide Fairchild Channel F, first I've ever seen in the wild, and box no less. This is cool too. It's one of those new X68000Z mini replicas. Oh, and a Sega Mark III to round it all out. A lot of good stuff on this one shelf. Before we go, let's have a look at their not insubstantial Neo Geo collection. This is one of my favorite games, but I think it's the CD-ROM version. The price on these loose carts has to be some kind of mistake, right? Yeah, this is more in line with what I expected. Let's talk about Surugaya. They have at least 5 locations in Osaka. Some are small and specialize in a single thing, and others span multiple floors and cater to a wide variety of hobbyist groups. I visited a bunch of them, but this is the outlet store. Some good deals can be found in the bin out front on the sidewalk before even entering the store. These are all considered junk. They could have cosmetic damage or not work at all. If you're willing to fix one, you could have yourself a pretty nice GameCube for cheap. While some of the locations are 100% dedicated to gaming, this outlet only has a small corner of retro bargains. Presumably overflow from the other stores as well as scratch and dent items. There's a random assortment of controllers and accessories, but some of them are boxed and carry a low price tag. Definitely open up the box and check inside before you buy. Always make sure you check the labels as well. Google Translate is your friend. This GameCube, for instance, is missing the expansion port cover. Otherwise, it should be tested and good to go. Oh, neat, a Saturn RAM expansion. It's only the 1 megabyte model, but I do need one, and the price is right. Okay, this is coming home with me. Our last stop in Osaka is Retro TV Game Revival. It's another hole in the wall, but it is 2 floors, and they do have some interesting hardware here, so let's take a quick look. Ah, Super Scope. I like how they've taken the effort to make up this little placard, letting people know it won't work with their modern TV. Oh, cool, here's another item from my wish list, the Family Basic Keyboard for the family computer. It's incomplete according to the sticker, and more than I was looking to spend anyway. Another big pile of Super Famicoms, a sight you're not likely to ever see back home in the States. Oh, more disk systems. This boxed one is 10,000 yen less than the one we saw back in Tokyo. I think I'll take the leap. Heck, it'd cost 40 or 50 alone in shipping if I bought one on Yahoo Auctions. All right, guys, I'm now standing out here in the rain about 30 minutes away from the city center by a local train, and I am at a hard-off location. And these stores, if you don't know, are used hardware stores. They have all kinds of electronics and musical instruments and stuff like that. There are a ton of these stores throughout Japan, and there are a whole number of them even local to the Osaka region. So I've picked one that was easy to get to. I don't know what they've got. Each one has different inventory, and that varies day by day. So let's step inside and take a look at what we can find. Wow, this place is amazing. Why can't we have this back home? As we're a bit outside the city center, I'm hoping to see even lower prices than before. They certainly have a lot of inventory, and this is just a single store out of a dozen near Osaka. Let's see what we can find. It's got a boxed Sharp Twin Famicom. This is something I've been looking for. I don't think at this price that I'm that interested, and you definitely have to read the card to make sure that it is in the condition and there's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, I'm definitely looking for something like this, but maybe not at that price. These Famicoms are in rough shape, very dirty, very yellowed, only 2,200 yen. So a real good deal if you're looking to pick something up to repair or to retrograde perhaps. Save on shipping, that's for sure, but these things are a dime a dozen. Oh, this one's only 550 yen, and it has the controllers. There must be something wrong with it. Yeah, there's a description here. Maybe it doesn't work, maybe it needs to be repaired. Definitely make sure you use Google Translate on the sticker before you purchase this, so you know what's wrong with it before you get it. We've also got some relatively inexpensive Super Famicom, 1,650 yen. That's like, what, $12? So if you're looking to fix something up to clean it, maybe put this to good use, you can get yourself a good bargain right there. Oh, and we've got ourselves another Famicom disk system here. This one's only 3,300 yen, a lot cheaper than what we saw downtown and much cheaper than the one that I picked up, which was complete in box. So this would be a really good bargain. Maybe I should have picked this one up instead. Oh well. Actually a pretty good deal. This box Sega Saturn for 8,800 yen with the conversion rate. That's going to be around $50, I want to say, which is about what I paid for mine. I think I paid $40 for mine plus shipping from Japan. So if you take this home with you in your checked luggage and you don't have to pay to ship it, this is actually going to be a much better deal than buying one online at auction and then paying another $40 to ship it home. Epic TV game system Super Cassette Vision. 19,250 yen. I don't know what this is. If you guys ever heard of this before, I'm going to have to look into this and see what this is. It's wrapped tight, so I can't open this little flap here. But yeah, this is something interesting I've never seen before or even heard of. Look at these. This is a whole bunch of Famiclones here. And this one is called the Game Cassette Computer. So what I think is what we looked at earlier that said cassette, they meant cartridge. So maybe cassette is synonymous with that. And these are all just Famiclone systems, it looks like. There's all sorts of stuff here on the wall. You never know what you're going to find if you just start digging through these inventory. Yep, have no idea what most of this stuff is. Back to this, and I realized why it's so cheap, even without translating any labels, though there doesn't appear to be a label. It doesn't have the interface, so you can't use this unless you have the interface cartridge that plugs into the Famicom itself. So that's why this one was so cheap. All right, that makes sense. Just a pile of Wii and Wii U systems here. They're all really budget priced at 3,300 yen. It's the time to pick these up. These are at the bottom of the depreciation curve now. If you're looking for something like this, they're not going to get any cheaper than this before they start to become retro and get more expensive too. Down here we have Famicom titles as well, and it looks like we've got quite a few options to choose from. Loose and unboxed prices again are around 1,800. Some of these are around 500 yen as well. So if you've got time to poke through and look at these one at a time and you want to browse, this is a good way to spend a few hours. Super Famicom cartridges here as well, and they're all priced really reasonably. Street Fighter 2 here, again, only 550 yen. That's not too bad. Dragon Ball Z, 550 yen. So really, really budget price, but you have to kind of go through everything one at a time and find what you're looking for. Down here, there's just a bin of loose UMDs. So we've got all these PSP games. Oh, we've got some Game Boy Color cartridges as well. 550 yen for these. 110 yen for these UMDs. Monster Hunter Portable 2G, maybe. 110 yen, that's less than $1. That's something like 75 cents. So, you know, if you want to pump up your library with loose games, rummage through these bins, find yourself a bargain. In this bin here, we have a bunch of original Nintendo DSs in a variety of different colors and different conditions, and they're all really inexpensive. 2,200 yen for this one, 1,650 yen for this one. Again, you need to translate the label to see what's wrong with them, but if you're looking to repair something or maybe to upgrade it with a modern screen or something like that, you know, this is like 12 bucks maybe, so it's a good place to start. Maybe you want one that's pink, or maybe you want one that's covered in ratty old stickers.
Okay, that was promising. Can we do even better? My theory is that the further away we get from the city, the better the prices and selection. To test it, our very last stop of the trip is one of the many hard-off locations near Tokyo, but this time a full hour away from downtown. This location is the biggest I've been to yet. They have an entire aisle dedicated to used games and consoles, and everything is organized and presented really nicely. Unlike downtown, there's almost no one else here, which makes for a much nicer browsing and filming experience. I mean, just look how nicely presented everything is. I guess we should look at a few more prices for comparison. A complete boxed Wii here is the same price that a loose console was in the previous location. That's a fantastic deal. This is about the same price as we saw previously, and I'm still not ready to commit. They definitely have a better selection of more obscure consoles here. This Bandai TV Jack is neat. I wonder if it supports 4 players. There's some really good stuff here, even if the most interesting things are out of my budget. Was there something you saw that you wouldn't be able to pass up? Let me know in the comments. One of the best parts of this hard-off is their large junk section. Here, you'll find scratch and dent, surplus, and untested or broken items for cheap. Bin after bin of items organized loosely by function. If you've got a few hours to paw through it all, you're sure to find something of interest. A lot of it is in good working condition too. The store just has no way of testing it, or it wasn't worth their time. They also have bins full of video games and accessories. A lot of these are around $1.50, some are even cheaper, like 70 cents. There are good titles here too. Sometimes they just have too many to put out front, or they've got damaged labels or worn contacts. Junk consoles too. This unit is even relatively clean and looks complete, for less than $4. I'd be remiss if I didn't take at least one of these home with me. Right, before we wrap this thing up, let's take a quick look at the goodies I did pick up on my trip. Let's start with that Famicom that I bought for around $3.50. It's actually in really good shape, and I even tested it, and it worked great with just a little contact cleaner. The only problem is that it's been written on with a Sharpie, but I think that just adds character. Next, I couldn't resist a couple of these quintessential titles for my imported N64. At between $2 and $3 a piece, these are must-have games for the system. Not sure what I was thinking when I picked up this Dreamcast keyboard, but it was under $15. Maybe I'll find a use for it in the future. From what I can tell, it's a different model from what was sold in the US, but it does have a QWERTY layout. Here's that Saturn RAM expansion I found at the Surugaya outlet for around $10. It'll pair nicely with my import console, and there are only a few games that require the larger 4MB unit anyway. My big purchase of the trip was this family computer disk system for around $85. The shopkeeper said it was complete and working, but I don't know if the belt was replaced. This was the only item on my wish list I actually came home with. Oh well, there's always next time, right? And what good is a disk system without a few of these proprietary discs? They were all around $7, except for Excitebike here, which was $17. I also picked up Super Mario 2, 3D Hot Rally, and Super Load Runner. Oh yeah, I also found this neat Subway IC card holder at the Nintendo store in Tokyo that was too cool to pass up. I feel like the supply of disc games will eventually dry up, so that helped to justify the higher prices.
So what have we learned? Well, there are still deals to be had on commodity hardware like the Famicom and the Wii, as well as common game titles. But if you're looking for something a little more exotic, like an MSX2, PC Engine, or heaven forbid a Neo Geo, expect to shell out big. The prices in big cities are going to be high. The further afield you go, the better. But unless you strike gold at a thrift store, the days of really cheap retro in Japan are indeed over. That said, travel is all about the experience, and in that regard, you absolutely won't be disappointed. I hope you enjoyed this bit. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Retro Bits. I'm on location in Tokyo, Japan, specifically the Akihabara.